So the biggest thing and the biggest takeaway so far, as of yesterday into today, actually update as of this morning in real time, about the White House Correspondents' dinner shooting is not the shooter. We know social media, modern electronic media being what it is, investigative journalism being what it is. We know everything 6 ways to Sunday about that creeper. The takeaway now is how specifically the White House, no, specifically the Trumps have responded. Because if there's anything, all of us, every single one of us should know by now, because this guy has been in the public eye for 5 decades. If you mess with President Trump's family, he will destroy you. We know this. He'll push back if you mess with his friends. We've seen that. If you go after him, you can go after him all you want. If you ever attack his family in any way whatsoever, violent or not, speech or not, he's going to take you down. And he has Jimmy Kimmel absolutely, completely, totally shook. Now, the first takeaway is, it's just a comedian. He's all that. Jimmy Kimmel is a political puppet who he's one of the mouthpieces for them. It is significant that not only President Trump, but First Lady Melania Trump is taking him down. This matters. And it's a takeaway for all of us on the pushback. I'm telling you, if you and me, if we don't realize by now what President Trump is all about, if you go after his family, specifically his wife, you're done. And it has already started in record time. We'll get into all of that. But thanks for hanging out with me with Wicked Radio on X and YouTube and Facebook and the replay and the audio podcast especially. We have to rewind a little bit to get through this. Again, we know everything. The charges were levied against the shooter, all of that stuff. That's not, believe it or not even the story anymore. That guy's going to spend the rest of his life in jail. Just a deranged doofus who repeated the words that he hears from a disgusting mainstream media, right? And other voices in his head, and politicians on that side of things. The story now is the response. And my friends, the response has been epic. But unfortunately, we have to rewind a little bit to get through this story. So let's go to Jimmy Kimmel's little mock White House Correspondents' Dinner he did just days before the actual White House Correspondents' Dinner where it happened. Sure, in hindsight, it all looks bad, but now he's trying to backtrack from all of this. This is what caused the real response. Here you go. Just a little rewind.
Our First Lady Melania is here. Look at Melania. So beautiful. Mrs. Trump, you have a glow like an expectant widow.
So funny. Yeah. Okay, so there's the rewind. Thankfully, it wasn't too long. Now, the real response and the pushback began immediately after all of this, with President Trump still doing the interview with 60 Minutes. Played some of that for you yesterday. No need to rewind. But then they had some time to put their notes together, and in the White House press room, which is where it all starts, and all of this coordinated to go after these absolute dirtbags who think they can get away with all of this political rhetoric. And as we said yesterday, the rhetoric, it's not tone down the rhetoric on both sides. No. Don't ever let anybody tell you this both sides crap, because it's just that. It's absolute garbage. The rhetoric, the violence, the hate speech is coming from them. That's where it's coming from. Here's the first step in the response yesterday, and it came from the White House press room. How do you know it's a response? How do you know it's a pushback? How do you know they're firing back with words? Their name and names.
This political violence stems from a systemic demonization of him and his supporters by commentators, yes, by elected members of the Democrat Party, and even some in the media. This hateful and constant and violent rhetoric directed at President Trump day after day after day for 11 years has helped to legitimize this violence and bring us to this dark moment.
And then she did name names, not only media members, not only panelists, but political opportunists, people who are in elected office right now and in the past, naming names and getting it all done. And that was the first step. And that's how this was all put together yesterday. And I got to tell you, it was brilliant. Communication-wise, this has been the most transparent. Love him or hate this. You didn't vote for Trump, maybe, whatever. I don't care, whatever it is. No one can make the argument that this isn't the most transparent administration in history. No one. This is a guy that has had down the end of the White House driveway impromptu press conferences, for God's sakes. He'll answer questions for hours on end if you let him. He's gone to media sources. Anybody that'll talk to him, he'll talk to them. Case in point and proof positive, he spoke to the 60 Minutes Norah O'Donnell interviewer immediately after this entire incident, still in his tux. He'll talk with anybody, and he talked about the incident. Okay. So that's Caroline Leavitt, White House press secretary, naming names, calling out the issue, and then the follow-up, and there's a reason why this happened in order. Melania Trump herself, from the official account of the First Lady's X account, posted this. A little long, I'll get to most of it. Kimmel, first name in the entire post, by name. Kimmel's hateful and violent rhetoric is intended to divide our country. Anybody disagreeing with that so far? His monologue about my family isn't comedy. His words are corrosive and deepens the political sickness within America. People like Kimmel shouldn't have the opportunity to enter our homes each evening and spread hate. A coward, Kimmel hides behind ABC because he knows the network will keep running to cover to protect him. By the way, let's take a pause here. Isn't that true? He's already been through this, by the way. He already got like semi-canceled. Remember his words after Charlie Kirk was assassinated? Remember that? A lot of the affiliates stepped up and did something in that, and that was. But then he was back and he was fine, and then goes on and says the things that he does. Enough is enough. It's time for ABC to take a stand. How many times will ABC's leadership enable Kimmel's atrocious behavior at the expense of our community? And as I said in the beginning, if you mess with Trump, he'll take it. He'll use it. He'll turn it around and use it against you. If you mess with his friends, he'll strike back at you as much as he can in that position. If you mess with his family and say things and actually direct hate intended to generate violence, which is happening towards his family, specifically his wife, he will destroy you. This much we know. There's plenty of evidence to see as Donald Trump, even before president. No, he will take you down. As on target as he is with this, can you imagine, just imagine in your mind how pissed off Melania Trump, the First Lady of America, was when she actually saw that Kimmel statement? Can you freaking imagine? How about another Kimmel statement? So he has a show to do. He's got to go online, right? He's got to go on there, and he's got to try to respond to all this. Now, I am absolutely no body language expert or voice analyst or anything, but just from my untrained eye and ear, I'm looking at and hearing a guy that is absolutely, completely shook because Jimmy Kimmel knows. This is a little long, but here's the monologue just last night responding to all this stuff, calling him out by name. We didn't even get to Trump's statement yet. We've only had Caroline Leavitt, Melania Trump, and others in the administration talking about it. Here's Kimmel last night. A little long. You got to hear the entire thing and the justification. It's always the weaseling out. It's always the, there's a reason for it. We have free speech and right. Don't fool yourself for a freaking second. This guy is a political operative. One of the main reasons why I can't stand him is he, along with others, have ruined late-night comedy. I tell my kids about a day and age when we had Letterman and Carson and they would make fun of everybody. It's almost as if they don't believe me. Johnny Carson example is a clip floating around there you may have seen on your social media of Johnny Carson and his monologue after Ronald Reagan was shot, where he expressed condolence and actually said this kind of stuff is insane. We shouldn't ever tolerate this in our country. And that was a guy that was actually talking about toning down the rhetoric, and you believed him. Compare that to Jimmy Kimmel, this day and age's little late-night political operative. Again, I'm not an expert. You tell me if this guy shook or not.
Sometimes you wake up in the morning and the First Lady puts out a statement demanding you be fired from your job. We've all been there, right? You've been there, right, Guillermo?
Yeah, sure.
What a day. As you know, they had to cancel the White House Correspondents' Dinner in Washington on Saturday night after a man with multiple guns and knives crashed the party and may have shot a Secret Service officer. Fortunately, the guy was wearing a bulletproof vest and is okay. They're not sure exactly what happened, but they got the guy. He was charged today. No one was hurt, thank goodness. A lot of people were shaken up on a night that is supposed to be lighthearted. The White House Correspondents' Dinner, if you don't know, it used to be an annual event before Trump showed up. But every year they'd have a comedian roast the room. The president, the vice president, members of the press, everybody got roasted. I did it once. I hosted it. It was a lot of fun. But this year, they said, no comedian. We're bringing in a mentalist instead. So on Thursday, 3 days before the event, in order to keep that cherished tradition alive, I did my own version of the Correspondents' Dinner on my show. I put on a tuxedo. We pretended we had an audience of luminaries. We used old footage of the Trumps, of Pete Hegseth. J.D. Vance, Kid Rock, Vanilla Ice, all the members of his cabinet. And we made it seem like they were all together in a room. We had a little roast. Again, this was Thursday, and there was no big reaction to it until this morning.
No, sorry that was long, but you had to get the entire thing. Did you, I don't know, disagree with me or not? I'm even more convinced now that I'm not a body language expert. That's a shook dude. He knows, because he knows it's all up. And I'm not just talking about canceling his show or Disney getting in more trouble or more affiliates pushing back against little Jimmy Kimmel. That's somebody who knows he's in some trouble because he knows that his entire gig has been exposed. That's not a comedian. That's a mouthpiece for a political party. And that's why it's so freaking gross. Because I'll go again. I hate to sound like Gen X old guy here, but it's absolutely true. And if you're of the same age group, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Late night TV used to be the escape from all of this crap. We used to escape from politics. We used to escape from the news, the bad stuff happening here. It was Johnny Carson and David Letterman and some others throughout there, maybe Tom Snyder. He used to give us an escape from all this stuff. This guy is a political propagandist. And he's taking his marching orders, which was exemplified exactly in that monologue last night. That's what this guy is. And that's why he's shook. But we didn't even get to Trump's response himself so far. We've heard Caroline Leavitt. We've heard Melania Trump, the First Lady, Trump himself. And again, in order of all this stuff. What was his exact words? Through Truth Social, which gets reposted on X. Wow, Jimmy Kimmel, who is in no way funny, as attested to by his terrible television ratings. And for some reason, he capitalized television ratings. I don't know. Made a statement at his show that it's really shocking. He showed a fake video of the First Lady and her son Barron as they were actually sitting in his studio listening to him speak, which they weren't. Blah, blah, blah. Our First Lady Melania is here. Look, Melania is so beautiful. I appreciate that so many people are incensed by Kimmel's despicable call to violence and normally would not be responsive to anything that he said, but this is something beyond the pale. There's the line, isn't it? This is something beyond all this. Now you've pissed him off. Can you imagine, just on a personal level? Let's pretend he's not even president yet. Let's pretend you pissed off President Donald Trump, businessman, because you insulted his family. Can you imagine what is coming your way? If there's anything any of us have learned about this guy, is he's not going to let it go. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. I'm not talking about the affiliates. I'm not talking about ratings. I'm not talking about cancellations and all this other crap. He's going to expose all of this because it goes deeper. It's coming. It is 100% coming. It's fine. Let him talk. Let him blah, blah, blah. The late night comedians who are propagandists, let it go on. Blah, 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 blah. Let it go on. Oh, you insinuate my assassination on a mock correspondence dinner and you insult my wife. Okay. Here's what's going to happen now. This is Trump, I'm pretending to be Trump speaking. I'm going to expose everybody that's behind your show. We'll expose everybody, all of your writers, all of your producers, who you're married to, who's writing your lines, then who funds it, then who at ABC is actually keeping this thing alive with, as Trump said accurately, absolutely awful ratings. We're going to keep. And then we're going to investigate, and we're going to actually go after all of the organizations that actually fund ABC and are giving to them and work with them. And maybe you're on the boards of things like Act Blue and all these political organizations. And then we're going to go after that, and we're going to go after him. We'll expose it all. Because that's what's coming. I don't know how long it's going to take, but that's what's coming. Trump is going to go after these people with everything he possibly has if he has not already, and it's coming. And even more so than President Trump, First Lady Melania Trump may actually get this this detail, and she'll do more to harm them than anybody ever has, because you went after her, and you went after, more specifically, her kids. You want an example of this? If you remember the raid on Mar-a-Lago, and how gross that was, and how absolutely unjustified that was. They went through her personal things. They threw files on the floor. They took pictures of it. And then on some of these rogue FBI agents, not the good ones, but the rogue ones, and then they posted some things in their personal social media. Remember all that and all that other stuff? You ever wonder why the Trump administration specifically went after and cleaned up a lot, as much as they possibly could so far, of the FBI? You look back at them invading their house, their home, and going into their kid's bedroom. That's why. This is not going to stop anytime soon. This was probably, and I'll say it right now, this is the biggest mistake that the political propagandists on the left, advocating all this violence and then covering it up and then pretending it was just a mock thing. This may have been the biggest mistake they ever made. And it's going to take some time, because it's going to have to take some time to unravel all this stuff and who's behind it and all their writers and their producers and the people at networks and ABC. The call for ABC and Disney to cancel Kimmel, this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning of all this. The biggest mistake they ever made was making fun of this and trying to weasel out of it. Now, real professional, again, going back to Carson back in the day, you could have gone back and just said, as a professional, as a human being, say, bad timing, the mock correspondence dinner where I talked about that was a mistake in light of everything. And said, let's calm down. You could have. Not once did Jimmy Kimmel do that. You absolute freaking weasel. And I'll tell you something else. He may have wanted to. But again, he can't. He can't. He is an absolute total puppet, not in control of anything. He's a mouthpiece for people that run his life, and you know what people they are. Big mistake. Bad mistake going after personally Trump, but then his family and his wife and his kids. This will be the end of the propagandists in that particular network, in this particular industry. It's because it's coming. But the pushback is a great takeaway because it was strong. It was coordinated from the White House to the First Lady, to the President himself, going to the networks. It was strong. And the good thing about all this stuff, and the big takeaway is the positivity on this and how they're pushing back, because they didn't used to. And maybe it took this for them to push back on this. But all of this, the biggest lesson ever, I talked about this a little bit yesterday, but I think it was confirmed as the days went on here, yesterday and last night and today. There are less people than ever that think it's rhetoric on both sides. Less people than ever. Because there's plenty of people out there now are looking at this going, wait a second. This White House correspondent's potential shooter here, he's just echoing the words that he's heard from all these networks. He's echoing the stuff that he's heard from Kimmel. He's echoing the words and saying the exact thing that he's heard from politicians. More and more people than ever understand it's coming from them, which is why, again, I'll tell you for the second day in a row, do not buy this crap about everybody needs to tone down the rhetoric on both sides. No, it's not both sides. It's that side. That's where this is coming from. But it may have been the biggest mistake they ever made. Maybe. This has only just begun, this pushback. And I'm not talking about the kind of pushback with more violence. I'm talking about exposing these people for what they are. It's coming. And if you learned anything from Jimmy Kimmel's monologue last night, you probably didn't see it live either. Very few people did. But just from that clip I played for you, that dude is nervous because he knows. They all know. It's all getting exposed. All right, thanks for hanging out with me. Appreciate you very much. Audio podcast. This gets posted right after the live stream, as always, and the replay on X, YouTube, Facebook, all that good stuff. And make sure you like, download, listen, all that crap. Who knows? It's only Tuesday. There's a lot going on. Make it a wicked awesome Tuesday, though. Now I'll talk to you tomorrow.